Greetings and welcome to the latest edition of the Entheogenic Evolution podcast. As always, I am your host, Martin, and I'm happy to have you with me today. I have something of a special episode for you this week. I was contacted by an individual, Jonas, who reached out because he was responding to various comments that I've made around how people are not really fully informed about what it means to work with 5-MeO-DMT and how it can be particularly challenging in some instances, and sometimes it's not about the session with the medicine itself, but it is about the energetic processing that happens afterwards, which can be very challenging and sometimes quite disturbing. So Jonas has a case like this, and he reached out and said, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this and have a conversation that we can record for your podcast to share with others so that they can be more informed about the reality of what it's like to be going through this very challenging process. I thought it was a great idea, so had Jonas on the show, and this is our conversation that I'm bringing to you this week. I'll tell you a little bit more about it in just a moment, but first, let's hit some announcements, okay? Let's see. First off, I want to thank Nathan, who has returned as a supporter over at Patreon. Nathan, it's great to have you back. Also wanted to thank Kay, who has signed up as a new supporter over at Patreon. And just a reminder to you, the listening audience, if you'd like to support this podcast, the way to do it is come on by my Patreon page, patreon.com/Martin W. Ball. There's everything from $1 a month up to $100 a month. And the top tiers do get 30 or 60-minute video call monthly check-ins with me, which is what Nathan is making use of in his return to Patreon. And of course, there's no obligation. You can change your support level at any time. You can cancel. And a reminder that everything above the $20 a month level and up gets access to the Entheogenic Evolution Archive, which features many, many, many hours of talks that are no longer publicly available anywhere else from the Entheogenic Evolution podcast. So for all past, future, and current supporters of Patreon, thank you very much. Really appreciate your support. Let's see. I want to just give a shout out to everyone who attended our trauma-informed 5-MeO-DMT facilitation webinar with Mindscape Institute last week. We had a good audience there and saw a lot of familiar faces and a lot of new faces. It was great to get a chance to speak with you guys about our facilitation course. And here's my reminder that coming up this Wednesday, August 19th from 3:30 to 5 p.m. Pacific time, I'm giving my second webinar on the foundations of integration with 5-MeO-DMT, which is sharing all about my 5-MeO-DMT integration specialist training course with Mindscape Institute. This webinar is free to attend. You just need to register for it at my website, martinball.net/webinar. The training course starts on September 9th, and I'm happy to say that there are now only 4 spaces left. So if you are interested in this course, definitely attend the webinar on Wednesday. And then if you're convinced and want to sign up, I encourage you to do it because spaces are running out. I'm looking forward to potentially having a full class for this next cohort. And it is a 9-week class. Again, it starts on Wednesday, September 9th, and is offered from 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time every week. And of course, all classes are recorded and made available for students in case they miss class or if they want to review the class because there's so much information. Also, let's see, I want to give a shout out to the Temple of Awakening Divinity. I'm actually recording this on Saturday morning, but tomorrow I am meeting with the current cohort of student facilitators with the Temple of Awakening Divinity and giving a talk on 5-MeO-DMT integration. Yeah, more integration. Why not? And so just want to give a shout out to Hal at Temple of Awakening Divinity and all the students there. I'm sure we had a great afternoon. Tomorrow, yeah, I know the tenses are funny, but that's what happens when I record this on Saturday, but it comes out on Monday. Thanks for having me. It was great to meet with all of you guys, I'm quite sure. And I mentioned this last weekend. It is definitely official. I am giving a talk in Austin, Texas on October 3rd. It's going to be a Saturday night talk. It is available to the public, but you do need to register for it. And it is by donation that is going to the Ancestral Spirit Tribe, which is the group that is hosting me and bringing me out to Austin. I don't have a lot of the details on that, but if you want to contact me at martinwball@gmail.com, I can give you the contact information for who you do need to talk to about getting the location and the time. That is not going to be made publicly available, as this is a private public event. So that's the way that they're running it. But if you're in Austin, Texas, you want to come catch me at a live talk, that'll be Saturday, October 3rd, sometime in the evening. And I'm looking forward to it. Get back to Austin, Texas. Cool. Let's see. Don't really have any other new announcements other than I am working on the soundtrack to the Fifth Temple audiobook, and I've got some new music recorded. I'm 5 songs in, and I'm going to share one of those new tracks at the end of the interview today. So, back into what this interview is and what it's like. So, speaking with Jonas, and just keep in mind that English is not his first language. He does a great job. But there's an accent, a little struggle for words here and there. And again, Jonas, reached out because he's had a very difficult time post his 5-MeO DMT session, which I believe was 5 or 6 years ago at this point, and still encountering some difficulty from that. So in a sense, we're kind of running this conversation somewhat similar to an integration call, but really allowing for Jonas to just share his own experience. After the conversation, that we decided that there were some personal details that he really didn't want shared publicly. So I've gone in and I've edited out a lot of the personal details about his backstory, his life, his upbringing. So just know that it is edited there. And do give him some reflection and advice, but we were not really treating this as an integration call. It was just more of an exploration of what he's been experiencing, and then some of my comments and reflections on that. So it takes a little while before we actually get into talking about all of that, but encourage you to stick with it. I think it's a very interesting case study, and we're just putting it out there to help people learn that this is a big, big medicine, and it has deep, deep impacts long after the medicine is actually worn off. And if you want to learn more about all the things that I would like people to know before they take 5-MeO DMT, you can stop by the Entheogenic Evolution YouTube channel, and I have a video there that is called Full Disclosure and Informed Consent. And in that video, I go through the list of here's all the things that I wish people would be communicated to about 5-MeO and what it means to actually work with it in a session, and different phenomena and events that can happen there, and also what happens afterwards. Because one of the things that comes up in my integration calls all the time with clients is they tell me, nobody told me about this. Nobody mentioned this was a possibility. And sometimes people are feeling a deep sense of regret, saying, I wish somebody had informed me about this. I wish I'd been educated about this before I agreed to take this molecule. Because, of course, once you take it, there's no going back. So this is part of the ongoing project to deeply and richly educate people about what it really means to work with 5-MeO DMT from a realistic perspective. And just my great thanks to Jonas for volunteering to share his story and make it available here on the podcast. So I hope you find it educational and edifying and interesting. And just thanks, Jonas. Really appreciate it. Okay. Let's get into the conversation. I hope you enjoy. So, Jonas, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me today and to share of your experience. We're going to be talking about having a difficult time with 5-MeO DMT. And this is something that you reached out to me to volunteer sharing your own experience. And I thought it could be quite instructive and educational for my audience. So I agreed to go ahead and have you on and to talk about it. And as I've just explained to you before I hit record, what we're going to be doing, sort of the format of our conversation, is I'm going to walk you through many of the kinds of questions that I would ask people if we were doing an integration call. So we're not just going to focus on the experience or the difficulty itself, but we're going to spend some time getting to know you, learning about your different experiences with 5-MeO, and then what you encountered and where the difficulties were. And then perhaps we could even get into some reflection and feedback and advice for how to make things a little bit smoother for you. Okay? All right. So
Okay.
great. So Jonas, let's just start by, I invite you just to introduce yourself, who you are, what you're all about. And then what I usually like to do in an integration call is I invite people to share a bit of your personal story about who you are, where you come from, what has shaped you as a person. And then I'll have more questions after that, and we'll be working our way into your 5-MeO DMT experience and the after effects and reactivations. So we'll get there, but we're going to take our time. So let's just start. Just invite you to introduce yourself, first of all.
I'm a very sensitive person, and which can be. I'm diagnosed ADHD, and I suspected sometimes because of some reactions I had that I might be traumatized and re-traumatized through my whole life. But that is a very difficult question that I have no accurate answer to. I live a life a lot in solitude, but I love to be a lot of by myself. So I spend a lot of time like meditating, and I have like fixed my life so it works really good for me. Like before, I had very difficult periods in my life when my environment was difficult. So I noticed that like I often had like the attitude like it's just to be here and now, and it's just all inside, and I don't have to bother about what's around me and so on. But it's not really. I think I need to be a bit like finding some balance and be like some like, hey, this works better like this, so let's be nice to myself and give me that, and like then I can take like some steps by steps, like yeah.
Well, I think it's very good to have an idea of yourself and what you need, and to be able to give yourself that. So that sounds very important for you. When and how did you consciously move into wanting to practice meditation and use that as a way of being with yourself?
Right. Yeah, it's a good question, because it's like I said, I had this experience as a child, so then it just came sort of spontaneously. But then I sort of forgot it, and then I remember in my teenagers, my mom had tried meditation, so she said to me like, try it out, and I did, and I had another like opening experience, and that's, well, oh, that's cool. And I read a bit about it, and then it's like, oh, it's just to be here now, I thought. So I don't have to meditate, it's just to be present. And then I got involved in other things and just forgot about that completely. I could get some meditative states or absorptions, etc., through other things in life, but I wasn't like really meditating. And then it was like later on in my 20s, I think I was like 23, was traveling in India, and then I went to a meditation retreat. So then I got opened up for it again, and was like, I feel I recognize this, like I had done it before. I had completely forgot about it, that I actually was formally meditating as a teenager, or at least I tried it. So from that on that retreat in India, I continued to meditate like daily, and then I did it more and more, and I got into psychedelics, and or actually all sort of practices. I just opened up more for Yeah, I don't know how to express myself actually.
Oh, well, I think you're doing a great job. If I could put a little visual metaphor on what you've just described, that to me, it very much sounds like a labyrinth. I don't know if you've ever walked a labyrinth, but where you follow the trail and it takes you in towards the center, and then as soon as you think you're at the center, the trail then puts you all the way back out at the edge again, and then you kind of get in a little bit closer, then you're back out at the edge again, and as you're circling around that center, that you're
Yeah,
constantly kind of going in and out and sort of losing track, and where am I? And now I'm out on the edge again. Now I'm closer to the
yeah,
center. And yeah.
yeah.
Um, so what piqued your interest in psychedelics originally? Sounds like it was perhaps through meditation and sort of this exploration of altered states. And where did you begin with psychedelics?
Well, actually, the very first time I did it was on a traveling in Indonesia, but then it was more like I didn't know anything about it really. It was just like more of a party thing, and I tried mushrooms, but I thought it was cool and interesting, but it was like. Yeah, it wasn't the same way as when I did later in my life with more introspection and
Yeah.
for like the purpose to I wanted to come to insight. Then it had a completely different effect on me.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Not at all unusual. It's something that I hear a lot from people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you started with some mushrooms. I'm curious with perhaps a little bit of a sense of social anxiety. Did you find that it amplified your anxiety, or did it make it easier for you to have fun with others and maybe soften some of that? I'm just curious what those early experiences were like. And also, just let me say, I always like to say that psychedelics are great for introspection. They're great for self-transformation. They're great for awakening and liberation. And they're also great for fun. They're also great just to enjoy, that it doesn't need to be about these deeper purposes in life.
Yeah.
So just know that I don't have any value judgment on when people say,
Yeah.
yeah, I took mushrooms and it had fun. It's like, oh, great. I'm glad.
Yeah. I have a very broad experience and perspective of it, and but. Yeah, what as you to answer your question, yeah, first time it was like sort of more superficial. I felt, and I thought it was like sort of fun with this strange experience.
Hmm.
How I could get scared or like, what is this fear? Why am I feeling this? And then and it was like could get like. Sort of lost and not knowing where I was, as I referred it to it more than I think. Like I was just there where I was, but uh, and then yeah, some other interesting dynamics. Um, but yeah, I had a definitely different view of it back then than now. Uh, yeah, and later on, I got into this like. For it was very interesting that I just found myself like right here and right now, and I didn't know anything else. And uh, but then I was also more into like requiring and like insight and like meditating and so on. And then it developed further and further. With you want to hear about that?
Yeah. And I'm really curious, was there an experience or an event or an inspiration that perhaps shifted you more into that introspective mode through a psychedelic experience, or was it just kind of developed that way without specific intention? For example, sometimes people say, "Well, then I read this book and realized, like, wow, this is a
Yeah,
different way of approaching it, or heard somebody talk, or something like that, or maybe it's something that you just kind of came into on your own. So I'm just curious what that was for you.
yeah, yeah. I think it like the first time it was just this. You could just buy this drink in Indonesia where there was like parties and stuff, and then the second time in Sweden, I was like on a festival, I think, um, and then also think I got it from a friend at some point later, and it was so no, I don't know if it was. I lost my thread a bit now. Can you help me?
Yeah. So what brought you more into the introspective and that sense of presence mode with psychedelics?
Um, I feel it's a bit. I don't feel very authentic saying that right now, actually,
Mm,
because it's. I'm like nervous and more superficially minded now because we're having this conversation, and
yeah.
that's is a good point to make if there's somebody listening to this, because this is like more of a sort of sacrifice that this I don't see this conversation as something that is important for my own development, even though it's also in exploration. And yeah, I could talk so much about all these things, but um, um, no, I don't think it was. I see it more like my whole life just have gone in waves, or
Mm.
like being more inside and being more extroverted, and but it's definitely like I have got more of an interested in it now, and that I'm like more formally involved with these kind of things. Like even though that's a bit strange thing to say as well, but let's try to keep it like that now to have a context. Um, yeah,
Yeah, well, Jonas, I just want to commend you, but just for sharing all of this, and I know that it's a little bit awkward, it's a little bit different, and just appreciate whatever insights and whatever things that you want to share. And I know it's always a little bizarre having a conversation knowing that other people are going to be hearing it. So it's not, even though it's just you and I here together right now, that ultimately the purpose of us recording this is for other people to share. So that can, of
yeah,
course, enhance a sense of just being self-aware, self-conscious, maybe a little critical, a little nervous. But I think you're doing great. So let me ask you, Jonas. When, where, and how did you first learn about 5-MeO DMT, and what caught your interest in that particular molecule?
yes. That's a very interesting question, because it's like it just came into my life quite sudden in a way. I had done DMT before that, and that was very. I felt that was like easy for me. Oh, sorry, it's a little fly here drowning.
Oh,
Um, I felt that was like very. I'm sorry. I thought that was very easy with DMT. The experience, it was challenging and difficult, but I felt I could manage it really well. It was not like some sort of hellish experience or something like that.
mm-hmm.
And I got this from one friend only. he was very generous, and also I think part of I think it's good to mention that as well. Like he's a very, I don't have contact with him any longer actually, because I thought he was just too extreme. He's like yeah, he has like this. He is a very nice person who is very in touch with himself and very present always when I met him. I'm an amazing person actually, but he also been doing very crazy things like that could be dangerous for others also, I think. Um, so, but anyway, one day he just sent this in a package to me, and I thought. I didn't know if I wanted to use it, or actually, we maybe spoke about it before he sent it to me. I think so. We spoke quite a bit at that time, and I read about it and studied it. I knew that it was a very powerful substance, so I wanted to study it. I think I might had a bit of a rush for it, but now afterwards, because I was like thinking I didn't know how powerful it was. I only had experience with DMT, and I took what I call threshold doses of DMT, and one time I took a bit larger dose that I found too difficult to make use of. But so when I had the 5-meo DMT, I was thinking like, well, I have the experience of DMT, and I know that this substance, the 5-meo DMT, is much more powerful. So what can I do about that? Actually, if I'm gonna do it, I just gonna do it, and I can't really prepare myself for it. I understood that, but I couldn't imagine how much more powerful it actually was in experience.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter how much you study about it, because it's just in the same time. It's one thing that I think was helpful is my earlier experiences of psychedelics, and definitely of DMT, because it's also quite powerful, and also my experience with meditation. But still, somehow that relates, like it's a good start, a good ground, I think, but it also like you can't prepare for it.
Right. So he ended up sending you some. Did you decide to do it on your own, or what was the context of your first experiment with 5-meo?
The very first time I did it on my own.
Well, I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, I was just alone at home that day, so, and I thought that was a good time to do it. I had I got this bag from a friend that contained 20 milligram. I thought that was maybe too much for the first time. So, and he had recommended me to get a scale to get the exact amount.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking like the amount wouldn't matter that much, because I didn't know. I have read about doses and so on, but like what would the right amount be for me? I didn't know. Like a small dose might be more difficult than a large dose. I tried to find some sort of middle way, what I just felt was the right one for me, and it was about 10 milligram. and because it's like I had the experience also with the DMT that when you have this like threshold dose, then it's like it is very challenging, but it's like it just got to happen. You just got to get to that, get into it, and sort of have this what do you say, sort of forgiveness, and that it's okay, this the love, and like this the complete surrender.
Yeah.
With DMT, I found it more easier with smaller dose. It's not really been a problem, but with 5-meo DMT, it was then smaller doses is difficult.
Yeah, which is not at all an unusual description that people give, and it's one of these deeply paradoxical natures of 5-MeO in particular, where many people describe smaller doses that don't really break through into full absorption as being far more challenging and difficult than the larger doses, which seems counterintuitive to a lot of people. But once you've experienced the difference, that you can really see that it actually can be easier to go bigger with 5-MeO. Though I'm not necessarily recommending that people just go get their own and go big, because as we're discussing here, that it can be challenging.
Yeah, I think worth noting there is it was after I had tried it a few times, I tried the rectal way. So I had this little syringe. I put it inside the what do you say in English?
The anus, I think, maybe.
Anus.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that was much easier. And then I had 15 milligram rectal, and it was much easier than smoking it. That experience felt more like a sort of LSD experience, to how I relate to LSD. Maybe I could say it more similar to mushrooms, because it was like sort of, it didn't give this full exploding release or this full opening, or can use many words, but it was, I was sort of knew where I was in contact with my body. I moved it and like sort of danced with it and so on. So that was quite an easy experience, even though sure it's challenging also. But
yeah, I'm curious to talk a little bit more about those differences, but maybe first, if we could get a little bit more of a description of, so you were smoking or vaporizing it initially before doing it rectally?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what were those vaporizing experiences like for you?
Yeah, so the first time it was quite shocking. It like, I just saw this great light opening up, and I was like, I sat in my couch and this great light opened up, and I had like that time I had like I reacted it. I couldn't absorb into it. I felt. So I don't know if I'm right on this, but I think the reaction of this great light that might pull me down more into my body again, which became like sort of, I don't know if I shall say traumatic, but I think I can say traumatic, because it and it wasn't really comfortable in my body. I was like I couldn't be still. I moved around and I did like sort of flips in the couch. It was really strange, such a strange experience. And then but then finally I was through it after this infinite 15 minutes or whatever.
Mm.
And I just stood up on the floor and like, shit, I'm like, felt I was like Jesus or like enlightened, enlightened or like, and it's like, this is how it is now. I what 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 can I do? It's gonna be like this forevermore, and it's like it felt like I had I don't know how to put it into words. It's like having a mission to lead the whole world to enlightenment, or I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It was just like feeling very big and open,
Yeah.
and okay, this is how it is. Like, and there's no end to it. Like, there's no like this about life and death and work and surviving, and it's nothing. It's so much greater was the experience.
Yeah, I'd love to just comment on that for a
And
moment.
after that, it was going
Oh.
down a bit to a sort of baseline, and I felt light, and life was nice, and I was like in the kitchen and doing my thing, and yeah.
Yeah. So if I could just give a little bit of commentary on that. So it sounds like as the white light was dawning, that there was a bit of a fear reaction and maybe sort of
Yeah,
a clamping on and a holding down on that, because as you're describing that when it's vaporized, it just presents so tremendously rapidly. It's just suddenly,
yeah,
oh my God, it's happening. Like this is it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it definitely, that's where the ego has a fundamental choice. And that the choice is either say yes and just completely dissolve into this, or the ego says, wait, no. And
yeah,
then it can become quite challenging. But even with that, you can still be left with a very, very powerful sense of transformation that occurs
yeah,
from that.
yeah,
So what you then describe is as the ego is coming back, as you said, like 10, 15 minutes later, as the ego is kind of regaining that foothold and you're able to stand up and you feel more in your body, more in possession of yourself, that 5-MeO often presents as a fundamental and permanent change for people. So as you're describing that sense of, okay, now I'm enlightened and this is the way that it is. This is just what it's going to be. And there's that very strong sense of empowerment that comes with that. And we can also identify it as something of a messianic impulse of that sense of this has now
mhm,
happened to me. And this
yeah,
sense of absolute divinity has now
mhm,
merged with me, and so now my role is to be that Messiah in some way. And so this is, I have my little joke that I say with people where I tell people, oh yes, absolutely, you are the Messiah, and
mhm.
so is everybody else, because this is our true nature. I mean, this is the heart of what 5-MeO DMT gets to, is that each and every one of us, just the way that I put it into language, is that each and every one of
Yeah,
us is fully God in human form. And so,
yeah,
of course, we're naturally going to have these sort of messianic feelings and ideas. And then, somewhat paradoxically, of course, it starts to wash out and wash away. And then we find ourselves back in ordinary life again. It's like, oh, I thought that was going to be permanent. And it's another fundamental aspect of 5-MeO, that when these big absorptions and these big energies course through us, that we almost always feel that this is now the new permanent state. That it's very apocalyptic in that sense. Like there's a fundamental change that has occurred within reality and within our sense of being. But then eventually the medicine does wear off, and then we find like, oh wait, I'm Jonas again. I'm Martin again. I'm back in my kitchen again. I'm walking my dog again. And how was I supposed to save the world? What was I going to do about that? So these are all very, very universal aspects of 5-MeO. But yeah, I can imagine that must have been quite the event, just doing it there on your own. Did you feel inspired to talk to someone about it afterwards, or share that, or what did you do in the time period after that first experience?
Yeah, right. Of course, I just wanted to share it with everyone,
Yeah,
but is not that easy in this world
no,
because topics are sensitive, and I shared began sharing with people. I don't remember the very first time, um, but or yeah, after the first time I had done it, I don't think I talked to can't remember I talked to anybody about it actually. I just let it like be something. Hmm, I don't know how to make an honest.
mm,
Um, no, yeah, no. I think it took quite a while before I started to talk to people about it, and it was also. I think I had like a universal perspective of it. Like it was not particular about 5-MeO DMT. Um, and it is just about the whole of life
mm,
and this. I thought about saying God, but it's sometimes a difficult concept.
yeah,
Uh, yeah.
yeah. But you felt inspired to share it with others, so you did a little bit of serving others and getting
No,
them. No,
no. I didn't give it to others.
oh, okay,
No, 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 no. It's I think it's a difficult topic, and it's not like I just want to give it to others
yeah,
or to myself. I feel much more now afterwards that a sort of maturity that I just a different perspective of everything, and I don't know if I'm going to do it again. Um, yeah.
yeah. Well, that just wanted to comment that that's another common part of the 5-MeO experience that certainly many people do want to share it in terms of just talking about it, or just even that larger perspective shift that happens, sort of that large ontological shift of having felt like I felt enlightened, I felt that if I've experienced the true reality, and then wanting to share that, whether it's the actual molecule or the feeling or the idea. Many people feel very, very inspired to do that. And somewhat unfortunately, in the 5-MeO world, we then do get a lot of people who I think prematurely start serving other people 5-MeO because they are so enamored with it. And it's a very natural reaction. But
Yes,
yeah,
I yeah, I totally understand it. Like I felt that that I also wanted to do it, but it didn't go so far that I acted on it.
right.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah. So then, what inspired the decision to do it rectally?
it was also my friend who gave it to me.
Hmm.
He uh, he recommended it to me. He didn't do it in the beginning. I don't know why, but then later he said try it that way. Um, or Mm. Or actually, now I'm not. Sorry, maybe I was mistaken there. No, I'm not sure if he recommended it from the beginning. It doesn't matter so very much, maybe. But anyways, so I reflected on that a bit, and I think I probably was searching the internet, but it wasn't very much information about that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I found anything actually. So, but it sounded like a good idea. I know this route for it is another way to use medicine, and I could understand that doing it that way, like he also said. So comes on like slower. It's like it doesn't come in like directly in some seconds. It comes like in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Which is quite. It's much. I think that's much nicer. I had one difficult experience with it, but was not at all like when I vaporized it.
So, in what way was it difficult?
At that time, it was like a bit shocking as well. But I think then I also had 15 milligram, and I took it in my bed, and it was like then I was running down as it came on. I was for some reason running down to the shower, and I just wanted to shower, and then I was sitting on the floor, like feeling like I was on a mental hospital or something.
Yeah.
And it was like I was touching my body, like, oh, am I like mad or what's happening? Or and then after a while, I just like, hey, it's okay, and I just stood up and had a shower, and it was over. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like the classic flight syndrome that occasionally occurs with people, where as it's coming on, there's just that strong desire to get away, and like going into the shower, that can be a way of the ego looking to exert a form of control, something that's manageable. Oh, I can turn on the water,
Yeah.
I can change the
Yeah.
temperature. Yeah.
And you can feel the water, and
Yeah.
somehow grounding, but it's not why I took it. But then you have sort of forgot it, and it just happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And it can be very threatening to the ego to have that dissolution process, and just that strong desire to find something to help manage it. And then often when there is that kind of resistance, there can be those sensations of, I think I'm going insane, or I'm breaking my mind, I'm losing my mind, I'm in a mental hospital. Like, and there can even be projections of like, oh, I am in a mental hospital. This is where I've always been, right? That those thoughts can arise.
That sounds quite deep, though, like more psychotic, maybe.
Yes.
No?
Yeah. Yeah, there can be these temporary psychotic breaks for people, and I'm not trying to say that that's what you had, but just trying to compare it to what can happen to people. This is not a criticism of you, Jonas, but this is also another good reason why working with skilled facilitators can be very useful for people, for if they have an event like that. The encouragement, or actually not letting people leave the room, because often what I like to tell people is like, when we have these urges to do something about it or try and fix it or manage it, that really what the best advice in that moment is, okay, observe the desire to run downstairs into the shower, but then actually do nothing about it and just continue to lie in bed. And that's where sometimes a facilitator can step in and like, oh, nope, you need to stay in the room. It's not time to go down to the shower. And just having some supervision can be very important for people.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I can see that. I just had a personality that I'm sort of... I don't mind to go a bit crazy. Like I've been by example, I've been skateboarding, snowboarding a lot, and I've been crashing a lot. And like I know I'm resilient and I can manage a lot, but I'm just to give my version of it. But I understand your perspective, and I think it's very good.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're comfortable doing this work on your own. And so that's the choice you
Yeah, but
made. Yeah.
yeah, I find it can be very difficult to do it with people who I don't really connect with.
Yeah.
It's like this friend I told about. We had a really nice connection. We wasn't long time friends, but we got really in good touch with each other. And one with another psychedelic experience with him, I felt it was I felt like I was in a jail. So maybe that was with salvia though. So I know some a bit difficult.
Yeah, yeah, that's a fun one.
Yeah. So. Hmm. Hmm.
So was it then after this experience that you've described that you started having difficult reactivations, or when did those start showing up for you? And had you had any reactivations from the vaporizing experiences?
Can you repeat that, please?
I was just asking. Now I'm moving into more of where things became difficult for you. So I was asking about, did you have reactivations from the vaporizing, or was it then after doing the rectal administration that you started having these more challenging reactivations that you mentioned to me earlier?
That is also a good question because I when I used 5-meo DMT was during a period of I think about 3-4 months, and then the reactivations. I think the first came some months after that. Perhaps I'm not completely sure about this. I might had some later reactivations sooner than that, and I had many of that kind that I'm thinking about, and that's like I just felt this infinite presence somehow. I just like in the waking up in the night. I think that's common. I heard that
Mm.
before also, and I made this spontaneous. Just made these sort of movements with my hands, like symmetrically, and it was some sort of like who am I doing this? It's just happening like, and it was some sort of a balance between fear and acceptance. Like I could accept it, but it was kind of weird.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like, so, and then I had stronger reactions, like some months after, maybe half a year, and after that maybe some months later again, and that was too much. Once I was waking up in the middle of the night, and I had like felt like I had a thunder in my nervous system, like like I could see my nervous system from my inside from my in my eyelids, or I don't know. I just saw this sort of lightening of something looking like nerves, and that was and I was like so scared I couldn't think at that time, and it took maybe 5-10 minutes to come down and understand that I'm Jonas and all of this. And then I also had another very strong dream where I woke up in the middle of the night and felt like I was drying from inside out of fear, like super intense. So, and after I had those experiences, I felt like Okay, is this really healthy? Is it? I didn't know this could happen. Like this sort of egoic thinking to have my body being healthy and that I should take care of myself, which is a good idea. But yeah, that have been challenging experiences to now afterwards. Like how shall I relate to this
Mm.
substance? And mhm, yeah,
Yeah. If I could give a little commentary there. So it sounds like the earlier reactivations definitely were a bit easier for you. But even there, you're actually describing some things that are very, very classic with 5-MeO. And for some people, they don't reach this particular point that you've gotten to here. So let me just elaborate on that. So that sense of there is a presence or a force or a quality of reality that is
yeah,
there and present. And
yeah,
then that sense of it takes over your body, as you described, the symmetrical
yeah,
movements with your hands. Um, so this is one of these phenomenon that it can occur in the 5-MeO experience, and it can also occur after the 5-MeO experience, and it can come up. There's no real time limit on that. So for some people, it might show up in the next few days after their work with 5-MeO, and for others, it might be weeks or even months later. And I do like to say
mm,
that this is tends to be very uncanny for the ego when this occurs because it's
mhm,
almost exactly, well, no, it is exactly as you describe, where there's that sense
mm,
of, I can see that my body is doing these movements, yet I, Jonas, I, Martin, I, who, insert your name here, I'm not the one doing it. It's this other presence in reality that is doing this, that this energy is just moving and my body is doing it. And I'm not really in control and I don't really know why I'm
yeah,
I'm doing this. So it's very disconcerting for the ego when this happens. So this phenomenon, again, not everybody gets this. But it is a very deep level of integration with the energy of the 5-MeO because I like to identify this as, well, first, there is the process of getting the ego out of the way, allowing the ego to dissolve and to relax in acceptance into that infinitely expanded state. And many people think of that as like that's the spiritual quest, right? Get the ego out of the way so I can enter into the ascended realms or into enlightenment or into full liberation.
mm,
And I like to say that that's actually only step one. Step
mm,
two, the next phase of the process, is then allowing that deep level of energy to express itself through you, through your being, and through your body. And it doesn't need to happen with the medicine. It can happen outside of the medicine experience. And that's where it's this sense of something else is taking me over. So I usually describe that these early breakthrough experiences with the energy overtaking you outside of the medicine experience, it can feel very dualistic in the sense that the ego is still there and the ego is aware something else is using my body. And I don't think it's me, it's something else. And
mm,
then the more we integrate with that experience, the more we can recognize that this is actually just my fundamental energy. This is the same energy of 5-MeO. This is the same energy of that non dual state. And it's just breaking through into embodied duality, into embodied reality. And so, even though it presents as something other, the more we integrate it and the more we allow that experience to break through, then we're actually softening the rigid structures of the ego so that we can be more present and available with that energy on a moment to moment basis here in apparently dualistic reality. And again, it's very unnerving for people when this starts. But the more we can relax and just allow that process, the more that energy takes over. And again, a lot of people, actually, I'd probably say most people on 5-MeO, they don't get to this. That for me, this is the most interesting aspect of 5-MeO. And it's one that a lot of people don't know about, or they don't experience it. And so they're not aware of how impactful it is. Now then, those later experiences that you're describing in bed of waking up and like feeling like this thunderstorm in your nervous system, this is the point where I usually advise people, it's like, okay, if you're having experiences like that, what I recommend at that moment is you get out of bed and internally you let the energy know, okay, I'm available, and you let it move your body. And this is where people might go through 10, 20, 30 minutes, or maybe even a couple of hours, which can seem really intimidating in the middle of the night. But you go through a couple of hours, maybe, of these symmetrical movements then manifesting through the body, and it becomes very, very trippy. It can become very difficult to distinguish from a full 5-MeO experience. But often when these events happen, because they're so startling, that the ego clamps down and it reacts with fear, because it's like, oh shit, what's happening to me? And it can feel like maybe some kind of damage has been done to your brain or to your nervous system. And so it's very natural that people get scared at that point. And what the ego wants more than anything else is, please just let this go away so I can go back to sleep. But if we can open up to it, then the energy itself, which again is actually just us, but it's not from the egoic perspective. So the ego doesn't feel in control of it, that the energy starts to actually train you and show you how to properly embody it and to fully be that present in the world without having to send the ego out into an absorption experience. So one of the phrases that I use for this is that this is the inversion of the energy. Rather than just blasting the ego away, the energy, it's inverting and then coming through the body, coming through you as an articulated individual.
Yeah, I can relate to what you're saying somehow, both in relationship to 5-DMT and also in. I think I was more like this as a child, and then when with work and school and all of these kind of structures, it's somehow more challenging. I don't know if it has to be. That's something I don't understand. But I think it is that there's probably I'm suppressing something inside myself, so I can't come to my full maturation.
Well, I think that that's a very powerful insight, and I would agree with that, and not in a critical way, not saying like, oh, Jonas, like you're not being mature enough, but that this is what I have, because I went through this process myself. I mean, I know this intimately. I have been through this, and coming out the other end of it, that the way that I looked at it was this actually, what we're talking about right here, this process of embodiment, this is the evolution of the human form from what I like to call the God toddler state, where we are ignorant of our true nature and our true responsibility as embodied, individuated units of the one universal being and consciousness. And this is the maturation process where we can actually come fully into our energy in our embodied sense here in the world as the people that we are. And again, this is the process that I went through in 2008 and 2009. And everything that I've been sharing about 5-MeO and about what this process is has come from that since then. And so I do know how deeply unnerving it is, how strange it is, how out of control it feels. But the more we can center into it and allow and trust that this is actually us guiding us to a deeper, more mature, and fuller understanding of who and what we are, it actually brings us into a deep level of comfort and trust and allowance within ourselves, so that not only have we gone through our traumas and released our resistance and all of that, but we're actually embodying ourselves in a new way that is deeper and more authentic. And so when I talk about finding our authentic energy, this is actually what I'm talking about, is exactly this process that we're discussing right now. It's not just a matter of, oh, I'm going to say what I think and do what I want. Yeah, that's an aspect of authentic energy. But the true, deep, authentic energy is this energy that embodies us through this bilateral symmetry over which the ego has no immediate or direct control. And then we integrate into that so that then we're coming out the other end. It's just me. That's all that it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Uh, yeah. It's this and this me. It also wants to have like freedom,
Yes.
like which is allowing this energy taking over to allow that to happen. And it's like if I take now my life in perspective, and I'm think I'm living a good life. I have a work which is very nice and flexible, and I exercise and meditating, and quite I have taking some sleeping pills because I can't sleep. I don't know what that is. There's another subject, like whether that's related to 5-MeO-D or not, 5-MeO-DMT or not. I don't think so, but okay, I'm not going to much into that now. But then there's also this right, yes, more simple, yes, like being here, just talking to you, having a cup of tea, um, and also something I notice sometimes, I just look at my body with also like sort of another dimension to it. Like I see it more of a just some sort of being, like I could watch a worm on the ground. Like I'm not very important. I'm just one of these beings in this
Yeah.
nature here. And it's not like I'm not beautiful, I'm not ugly, I'm just like I am. And yeah, so it's this like sort of various perspectives to it to point to this just being now.
Yeah. So it sounds like these experiences have unnerved you a bit. And so I think you've mentioned that you're not certain if you're going to continue working with 5-MeO anymore because of these. Is that correct?
Yes, it was 6 years ago now, and uh, I put made a strong border to it. Not that I closed or my mind and for it and hated it, but it was just like very wanted to be careful with and honest. Like I don't my experience was it that I had no idea what I was doing, which is also like this God thing. But right now, I don't know. I don't know if I want to do it or not. I have no idea. It feels like it's like I never did it before.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, Jonas, if you wouldn't mind me giving you some advice, what I would advise at this point is, since you've had some of these breakthrough experiences with the inversion of the energy coming through you, in my experience, once that connection has been made, in a sense, we can't go back from that
Right.
because the connection has been made. And we, as the egoic character, we don't get to choose at that point. It's kind of like, well, we made the choice to take the 5-MeO. We made the choice to start this process, but we don't get to choose to just say, I'm going to walk away. And so it can become something that haunts people. So my advice for anyone who's in a situation such as you've described, even 6 years out from your last 5-MeO experience, is I would want to encourage you to spend a little bit of time every day, doesn't have to be long, letting yourself move with bilateral symmetry in your body. And if it was mostly in your hands, I would encourage starting in your hands and in your arms. And then finding or seeing if you can find the flow that connects from your hands into your arms, into your torso. Let the energy move up and down your spine and undulate, and you can let it move your legs as well.
Yeah.
I usually recommend lying on the floor to do this so that you can really easily use your entire body and really relax with it. That it's not about doing the proper form, but it is about opening up your sensitivity to where is the energy and can I just follow it? And then you
Yeah.
still might experience at this point where suddenly it shifts and there's this sense of, oh shit, it's taking me over now. I'm not in control. And just relaxing and trusting with that. And it even takes over your breath so that it's kind of this weird experience of feeling like reality is breathing me. I'm not breathing. Reality is breathing me, and reality itself is moving my body. I'm not doing it. And
Yeah.
if you can relax into that, then there's the possibility that you allow the energy to start to instruct you and guide you, not in an intellectual sense, not like, oh, I'm understanding all these things now, but in the sense of it shows you in your body how to be. And it moves you through these different poses and these different movements. And I also recommend putting on a little music because it makes it easier just to move with it and
Yeah. Yeah.
to
In
uh, go ahead.
I like dancing and
Yeah.
meditating, and I'm trying out many things. Mostly been meditating now, but it's not like, and I try to, and it's like, and I listening to this that you're describing to let it happen. Um, yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm not.
dancing.
It's one difficulty for me now is like I'm diagnosed ADHD, and I can get like quite dreamy, and like sometimes I might just speak things out, like impulsively, and I
Mhm.
do that more when I'm not meditating. So it's like now I'm like this in process. Like, shall I allow more of that and just let myself be ADHD and impulsive, etc., or maybe focus more on meditation and be more contented and present and focused? And I think there is some sort of balance act. But or how do you think about that?
Yeah, I'd love to give a little bit of feedback there. So first, I just wanted to say about dancing. Dancing is a great modality to help this energetic process along. My advice there is that you, as you start any kind of dance, spend a couple minutes embodying yourself with bilateral symmetry, and that centers the energy. And then you follow it through the dance. And now I'm dancing to the left, I'm dancing to the right, I'm spinning around. So all these asymmetrical movements come up, and you just follow it and you flow with it. And again, it's not about trying to dance in any particular way. It's really looking at my body is a vehicle of energy, and I'm
Yeah.
connecting with this energy and flowing with it. And then when you feel like you're ready to finish the dance, you come back into bilateral symmetry in the body and do a few movements there, and then even sit and rest, or you can lie down in symmetry or seated in symmetry, not with crossed legs, and then just let the energy settle there. So that's something that I recommend in terms of using dance as a modality. And then regards meditation and versus letting yourself speak, or when you say that you're more in the ADHD mode. And the most important thing with either of these that I would want to highlight is that I encourage people to look for places where they may be unconsciously leaking energy or letting energy be distracting versus this is what I really need to say, this is what I really want to say, this is what I really want to do. But it's not so much one or the other, meditation or being more ADHD. Again, the primary issue is, am I unconsciously leaking energy through any kinds of movements, sounds, body patterns, gestures, and then I want to bring those unconscious movements into my consciousness so that then I'm either choosing to do them because they feel authentic, or I'm choosing not to do them because I recognize them as a leak or as a distraction. So that it's not the end result, it's not the form that's important. It's not about being this way, that way, or any other way. It's about, am I just being true with my energy? And sometimes my energy is going to be very active and very dynamic, and I'm going to go with that. Other times, my energy is going to be very still, it's going to be very contemplative, and it's going to be very passive. And again, it's not that either one is right or wrong, but when we're in these different spectrums of energy, we want to be in it fully and consciously, and allowing ourselves to embody and express it with awareness rather than unconscious patterning, rather than leaks, rather than distractions. So it's just a way of reframing it. Again, it's not about I should meditate more or do anything else more. It's that when I do the things that I do, I want to do them with presence, and I want to do them with consciousness, and I want to do them with awareness of how my energy is being embodied, expressed, and mobilized within my being. And that's the real task, as I like to put it. And giving yourself time to embody yourself symmetrically, this is what really helps bring about awareness of these things. Because usually when we get into distracted or agitated states, we can see a lot of asymmetry start to manifest in our body language and in our movements and in our actions. And so by bringing our awareness into that and then acclimating ourselves to that symmetrical embodiment, that's the direct route to really becoming conscious and aware of how we are embodying and mobilizing our energy and allowing those deeper levels to embed and embody and express within ourselves. Now, how do you feel about all of this right now? I'm curious.
I'm a bit more at ease with this conversation, and just like recognizing the energy you're speaking of.
Hmm.
For some reason, it feels a bit strange to talk to a phone, but like it's just me talking. I mean, obviously it is, but Like I'm just talking to myself.
Yeah. Well, that's the real trick now, isn't it? Because that's really all that's ever going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just different versions of the self located in different perspectives and in different bodies, but it really is all just one thing interacting with itself. And we're
Yeah.
along for the ride and the experience. Okay. Well, then, Jonas, and I think I'll go ahead and suggest that I'll go ahead and let you go. And I will also just offer the invitation that as you mull over our conversation today and you feel into these thoughts and these ideas, that I definitely welcome you to reach out at any point and to share anything that might be arising for you, and just emphasize again that even though it's been 6 years since your last 5-MeO experience, that it clearly is still very much with you. And so I invite your continued dialogue with me in any way that you're comfortable with. And also know that there's no pressure there, that if you want to be like, okay, I talked to Martin, I shared my story, I don't need to keep talking about it, that's also fine as well. But just know that the invitation is there. And I appreciate your openness and willingness to share of this experience here with me, and to have it be recorded, and to hopefully help educate people who are listening to this about some of these deep levels of the experience. And that I do want to emphasize that what you're describing here, again, is a deep level that a lot of people don't actually get to. And I don't mean that to say, hey, Jonas, you're great and other people aren't. This is just the reality of it, that this level of energetic inversion doesn't happen to everyone. And it's challenging. It is quite the experience to go through. And again, it's an experience that I went through. It's a process I went through. And back when this happened to me in 2008 and 2009, there was no one to talk to. No one had ever heard or described anything like this. So I was very much on my own, and it was very challenging and exciting and disconcerting for me. And I also am glad to say that I made it all the way through. And so that's what I encourage for others. And that's why I encourage you to explore a bit more of this within yourself. But also, it's whatever you're comfortable with. It's your being, it's your life. There's nothing that you need to do. So it's just an invitation that if you want to explore it more, there are ways to do that. And it is through the embodiment process. Okay. Well, thanks so much for your time, Jonas. And I'm sure it's late over there where you are. So maybe it's a good time to let you do your nighttime routine and
Yeah.
get some of that sleep.
Yeah. Nice talking to you.